Hello and welcome. My name is Trevor Congleton, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Marketing and Enrollment Services at WallaWallaU University. This is the first in a series of 4 live presentations that we've designed to help new students and their parents feel confident and prepared to start their college adventure at WallaWallaU University. We believe that God has big plans for you, and we want to do everything we can to help you feel ready as you gear up to start the school year. This first presentation is brand new this year because we know that things really feel uncertain, and we want to make sure you feel comfortable and confident as you look forward to your first year at WWU. For today's presentation, I have with me Jody Wagner, our Vice President of University Relations and Advancement, and Melissa Ray, our Director for Recruitment. They're both going to be covering materials that we want to share, as well as help answer any questions you may have. As we go through the material we have prepared, please feel free to ask any questions along the way using the chat box. We'll likely save your questions for the end of the presentation, at which time we will answer them. We are estimating that this presentation should take us about 15 to 20 minutes or so. And if you'd like to download the slides that we'll be covering in this presentation, you can download them through the link on the panel on the right side of your screen. Now that we've got the introduction covered, let's jump right in. Melissa, will you give us an overview about the plan for fall quarter?
Absolutely, I would be happy to. So I have some great news, and that is that students this fall get an extra long Christmas break. We are scheduling a little bit differently based on our current circumstances. So JumpStart freshman orientation will now begin September 8. Classes on our College Place campus will begin September 14, and on our Portland campus for upperclassmen nursing students, September 28. So because we're starting early, we're finishing at Thanksgiving, and students won't be returning until our normally scheduled winter quarter. In case you want to check these dates, all of them are updated on our calendar, so feel free to go to wallawalla.edu and select the calendar there to confirm any of these dates. We're keeping that actively updated. Now, let's talk a little bit about housing. This year, students are going to move into the residence halls in a slightly different way. We're actually going to have them make appointments just as a precaution to make sure that everybody stays safe and healthy during the move-in process. So starting July 13, next week, students will be able to sign up for move-in appointments at wallawalla.edu/residence-hall, like you see on the screen there. Our deans are going to be communicating with students about this, so make sure that they're checking their WallaWallaU University email for further details on the sign-up process. When you're signing up for the move-in appointment, you'll be able to select the date and time on a first-come, first-served basis, starting with the move-in date of Friday, September 4. Now, the Friday move-in appointments are going to be reserved for students who are coming from a farther distance, like more than 300 miles. But JumpStart isn't actually starting until Tuesday, September 8, so you still have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday as additional move-in days if you don't qualify for that Friday move-in date. Appointments are going to be for a 4-hour block of time, but check-in times are staggered by 10 minutes, just to keep our lobbies as clear as possible and reduce any possible risk. So we're going to be following accepted protocols for the general COVID-19 wellness checks when you arrive, and we ask that you wear a mask during your move-in process. And with the exception of scheduled move-ins, the residence halls are going to be limited to residents only, just as a safety precaution. On July 29, we're going to be doing another live presentation on everything that you need to know about living in our residence halls, including any new COVID-19 related requirements. So you're welcome to sign up for that presentation as well to get further details at wallawalla.edu/workshops. Now we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is JumpStart. It's our freshman orientation program. That's beginning on September 8, which is a Tuesday. This is a super important event that gives the chance for students, our new students, to get acclimated to campus, to learn their way around, to meet new classmates. And it's going to look a little bit different this year. But we want to make sure we keep our gatherings small and physically distanced and still give students the chance to get to know each other, to get all of the valuable information that we have to provide, and to get you started on the right foot. So it's a good opportunity to make some new friends and get acquainted with campus. So if you haven't already, students, make sure you're registering for JumpStart at wallawalla.edu/JumpStart, like you can see on the screen there. And as we get closer to the date, we'll be giving you more specifics about that program. Now, Jody, can you talk a little bit about the plans to increase campus safety for the coming fall term?
Sure, Melissa, thanks. Hi, I'm Jody, and I am leading WallaWallaU University's Return to Campus Task Force, which is the group that is pulling together to make sure that fall quarter is as safe and helpful for you as possible. You can be sure that we're taking this very seriously, and we're carefully evaluating our campus procedures with the help of health professionals. Here are some of the steps that we're taking. We're talking about masks and distancing. Face coverings will be required on our campus. In most cases, this means cloth face coverings inside all of our public buildings and outdoors where physical distancing is not of at least 6 feet is not possible to maintain. The university will be supplying you with at least 7 masks, a week's worth of masks. They'll be cloth, and that way you'll have a mask to wear every day while you're laundering the others. We are currently evaluating traffic patterns in all of our buildings, entrances and exits, looking at things like plexiglass shields and other safety barriers to install just to add an extra little security there and protection in some of our key common areas. We're making modifications to our classroom and common areas. Classes will be limited in size for fall quarter so that students can maintain physical distancing during their instruction. Also, campus housing is being restructured so that we can make sure that we have rooms available for quarantine and isolation and for special needs as students come to campus. Campus life will be a little different this fall than what we're used to. We realize that the added safety procedures will not be the most ideal or the most convenient for what your experience is at WallaWallaU University, but your health and your safety is really our top priority for fall quarter. We are currently working on a number of exciting extracurricular activities, professional and cultural programs and events to try to keep you engaged and thriving intellectually, socially, spiritually, and emotionally during our fall quarter. Food service during our fall quarter on campus will include special serving arrangements, and students will be able to take a mobile app or use a mobile app to order their meals in advance and pick them up in a convenient location where traffic flow protocols are ensured for your safety. Contact tracing, health screenings, and COVID code of conduct are in the works. We're working with our local health professionals and our local county health officials to make sure that we are carefully monitoring our campus community and providing all of the information that we need to make sure that not only are you safe, but those around you are safe as well. You can keep up to date on the steps that we're taking to keep our campus and our community safe this fall quarter. And you can do that at wallawalla.edu/coronavirus. Once again, that's wallawalla.edu/coronavirus. Also, on that webpage, there's a form that you can ask COVID-related questions to or make comments, and our team will get back to you with an answer. So thanks for checking out wallawalla.edu/coronavirus, and we are excited to welcome you safely for fall quarter. And now, Trevor, do you mind talking about some of the other information that they should be thinking about right now?
Happy to, Jody. A big thank you to both you and Melissa for sharing some of that information and updates with us in regards to campus and what it's going to look like as we start fall quarter. As we're getting ready to wrap up the presentation with where we're going to talk a lot, I want to make sure that I share a few more pieces of information, as well as encourage you to submit any questions that you may have for Melissa or Jody or myself in the chat box, as we want to try to answer them before we leave. So that's why our presentation is pretty short, because we want to spend most of the time answering questions that you guys may have. So the couple last things I want to share while you're typing in those questions, the first of which is, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you sign up for classes this fall by making an appointment with our academic advisement office at wallawalla.edu/get-my-classes. Just click on a time that they are free and that works for you, and you will meet one-on-one with an academic advisor that can help get you signed up for just the right classes. Again, that's at wallawalla.edu/get-my-classes. The next one is that there are 3 or more sessions coming up this summer that we're going to be hosting. Among those things, we're going to be talking about what you need to know about living in the residence halls, which is always a popular one for students and families to attend, as well as walking you step by step through the financial clearance process. We'll also have one that's going to make sure that you have all the information you need for a successful start to fall quarter. You can sign up for each of these sessions at wallawalla.edu/workshops. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you register for our freshman orientation program, which we call JumpStart, which begins the Tuesday before classes start on September 8th through 11. Melissa talked about that a little bit, so make sure you sign up for JumpStart. Again, that's wallawalla.edu/JumpStart. And lastly, another important step, if you haven't done so, is to pay your $200 non-refundable enrollment fee. This guarantees your spot on our campus for fall and will allow you to sign up for and be placed in a residence hall room. So if you want some selection on what hall or floor you'd like to live in, I would encourage you to pay that as soon as you are able. You can pay this at wallawalla.edu/enroll fee. One word, enroll fee. And you'll want to make sure you have your WWU ID number handy so you can make sure it goes to the right person. With that in mind, let's go ahead and open it up to some questions and answer period. So let's see, this first one I'm going to kick to Melissa. And this is somebody asked, when will my student be assigned a roommate?
Great question. So roommate assignments have actually already taken place. So your student should have received an email at their WallaWallaU University email address discussing possible roommate options and room selection. And if they haven't already, it's a great option to reach out to housing@wallawalla.edu with any roommate-specific questions.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Let's see. I'm going to give this one to Jody. Will I be allowed to travel to Walla Walla and visit my student during fall quarter?
Good question. Thank you, Trevor. Yes, but should you travel to our campus, you're going to need to check in as a visitor, and you're going to need to go through all of the screening protocols and all of the coming onto campus sort of protocols that will keep our campus safe. So we are requiring that of anybody who comes onto campus, and our Return to Campus Task Force continues to look at that and evaluate how that will work, depending on what the situation is from where people come, and also the situation in our own community.
Great. Thank you, Jody. Let's see. Another question is, what time on September 8th does JumpStart begin? I can take this one. It starts at 9:15 in the morning with a worship program. Let's see. Another one is, will students coming from 500 plus miles have preference to an early move-in appointment for the residence halls?
Yes, so that's one of the things that I mentioned in my housing section. Those of you who are from 300 or more miles away are going to have preference for those early Friday move-in times. So be sure when you are able to schedule on the 13th that you let them know that a Friday day is ideal for you, if that's the case. If it's not, and you'd rather have the weekend to travel and you'd rather move in on a Sunday or Monday, certainly you have that option. But preference for those who are traveling farther is given on that Friday.
Great. Next question is, how do we pay for JumpStart?
I'll go ahead and take this one. So the only fees associated with JumpStart are for food and materials, and all of that is automatically charged to your school bill. So you won't see any required payments in advance. You'll see that reflected on your school bill in the fall.
Perfect. Jody, here's another one. I think I'm going to give this one to you. And how much in advance notice will we give to students should we have a COVID-related change on campus, such as going online or something like that?
That's a really good question. Thanks for asking that. We're currently creating several different scenarios so that we're ready for just about anything to happen. Obviously, with COVID, there's a little bit of an ebb and flow. We aren't necessarily where we thought we would be several weeks ago in the nation. Right. And so we're constantly monitoring COVID. We're constantly monitoring what's happening, not only in our local community, but in the local communities from where our students are traveling. So we'll do our very best to provide some advance notice, know that we're planning ahead. I think this spring taught a number of our institutions some really valuable lessons. Walla Walla University has never been entirely online, as many universities will tell you. And so our Return to Campus Task Force has learned from a number of situations that happened this spring, and we're preparing several different scenarios that the committee will continue to monitor well into fall quarter.
Great. Thank you, Jody. Here's a question related to the cafeteria. Someone asks, each student pays for a meal plan with the assumption that there is a buffet. How will that be accurately reflected in the new procedures on pickup meals? Jody, have you guys talked about that?
Sure, we've been talking about that. The app that our meal carrier or our meal provider plans to make available to students should allow you to make a number of choices. Our goal is not necessarily to cut down on choice, although initially we may need to sort of limit the options as everyone gets used to the new distancing situation and how to cycle through our cafeteria. But the idea isn't necessarily to limit your options. It's really to try to figure out how to get those options to you with as little contact and risk as possible. So my understanding is their ordering app should allow you to select your favorites from among a menu, and that they will box those favorites up and they will put them all together for you so that you don't go through a buffet and touch all the same handles and have to stand in the cafeteria for a large number of time. Again, our goal is to make your selection as quick and easy as possible, get you in and out with your food and on your way safely.
Great. Thank you, Jody. Let's see. Another one is, how many people will be able to help move us in during our move-in time slot at the residence hall? They said they might have heard that they had to move in their own without a parent. Melissa, do you have an answer for that one?
So this one, we're going to get more specifics when you are released to sign up for a housing move-in date. So be sure you're checking your WallaWalla email, as that's where our residence hall team is going to be reaching out to you with some of those specifics. And I've seen a few other housing questions come in, so I'll just try to cover those quickly. The move-in dates are starting Friday, September 4. That Friday is reserved for those who are coming from a farther distance. And then the following Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are also move-in dates. So those are available options for you, which would be the 6th, 7th, and the 8th of September. Those sign-in times will be released next week on Monday, July 13. And if you haven't heard from housing and are watching for those details on roommates, on room assignments, be sure you're checking your WallaWalla email and reaching out to housing@wallawalla.edu with any specific questions, and referencing wallawalla.edu/housing for room dimensions, packing lists, the student handbook, and all kinds of helpful housing information.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there's quite a number of those kinds of questions coming in right now. So it's going to be really important that you make sure you tune in for our webinar on the residential life portion. We'll have Kristen Taylor, who will be there, and she's in charge of the campus accommodations for students. And can help answer pretty much almost all your questions that you may have. So make sure you tune in for that one. I know that she'll have a lot of those answers that you're looking for.
And I would just chime in and add, Trevor, I have a daughter who's a sophomore at WallaWalla. She was a freshman last year. And I myself, who I work at WallaWalla University, found that particular webinar extremely helpful because it does give quite a bit of details to help you plan for setting up your room, everything from the floor space all the way to how move-in will happen. So I can't say enough about that particular webinar and the value that it will bring you.
Great. Jody, does the housing and residence halls have a website where they're posting some of this information for people to reference later?
They are. They're trying to post housing information as much as possible. So if you were to go to our wallawalla.edu website and type in residence hall or housing, you'll go to the page and check the search. You'll go to the page for our residence halls. They're trying to keep some of that information up to date. You'll be able to find some of that information there right now, but they are going to be providing the latest during our webinar.
Great. Let's see, another question is, what will public places like the student center or library look like?
Very good question. We're currently doing that assessment now. We're doing final walkthroughs and trying to judge how to provide common spaces, or third spaces as we call them. WallaWallaU University is a pretty close-knit campus community. Our students tell us that they love being here because we're all here together. It's not really a come and go environment. So this fall is going to be a little bit different for us as we try to continue that tradition with social distancing. So you can expect social distancing to be the norm. You can expect masks to be the norm. You can expect us to try to create wonderful, engaging community activities and options for people to gather, because we do think that's important, but you can expect smaller groups to gather. You can expect to access maybe more private spaces for studying or relaxing. And our students will probably tell you that outside would be an ideal spot to hang out with people where you can be 6 feet socially distanced outside, maybe without a mask. So we are looking at a number of different scenarios to try to keep people safe in a way that they can still be together.
Great. Let's see. Question is, could you please repeat the move-in dates and class schedule for fall quarter? So JumpStart begins on September 8th, which you can move in, starting that Thursday or Friday, was it, Melissa?
Friday, September 4th is that first move-in date for long distance.
Yep. And so make sure you contact the residence hall so they know when you're wanting to set your appointment. If you're coming from a long distance, that's especially important because we want to make sure you're able to be here and don't have to be traveling over Sabbath. That'll be important. And then we start classes on September 14th for fall. That's when we begin.
And I think you can find that schedule at wallawalla.edu/coronavirus. I think that there's some information there on the fall quarter schedule. So again, wallawalla.edu/coronavirus, and then scroll down and there's a fall quarter schedule button there for you.
Next question is, are we required to have a meal plan? Melissa, you want to take that one? I think she's unmuting her mic. Oh, still muted.
I'm happy to do that one. Mine's freezing in the muting and unmuting process. Yes, all of our students who live in the residence halls do have a meal plan unless there's a special exception for extreme dietary needs. Most general dietary needs our food service is able to handle really well. But in extreme circumstances, if you're working with our student services, they're able to make exception for you. Otherwise, you have the option of several different awesome meal plans and a lot of really delicious food options as a part of that meal plan. And the meal plans are outlined on our website if you want to look through the specifics of each one of those.
Speaking of food, another question related to food is the quantity of food going to be limited with the meal pickup app? Jody, you were talking about that. Do you have any extra insights?
That's a really good question. I don't have extra insights. I sure hope not. I like to get my pizza and my grilled cheese sandwiches and my salads and all of that. But I do think that they are going to be a little bit different because we're going to try to provide our meals in a takeout kind of situation. There will be some dining hall seating. So some students that go through our dining hall will be able to be seated in the dining hall and enjoy a meal. But for those who don't want to wait for dining hall seating or would prefer to go, the takeout trays are going to be sort of the capacity that you can fit things in. So.
Great. And of course, I'd imagine that comes within reason. So if you go and pick up like 8 to-go trays and take them away, chances are you're going to be eating that meal multiple times for the next week. And so we got to weigh what makes the most sense. So. Right.
Our dining hall provider has been dealing with COVID for months now because they're a global company. They serve dining halls all around the world and have been doing this for a while. So they're bringing to us some very proven methods for trying to get you fed and get you satisfied with your meals. So we're feeling very comfortable with their level of expertise. It's not like we're going to try to figure things out. There will be some tweaking as our students come onto campus, but we're really pleased with how they're moving so quickly to try to make sure that you get the meals that you need.
Great. All right, I've got 2 questions left. So if you have a question that we haven't answered yet, make sure you put it in the chat box so we can make sure we get to it before we close. The next one is, what about move-in dates for students participating in athletics?
I'll take that one, I guess. So students who are participating in athletics should be hearing from their athletic director and their team coach about their particular move-in dates and times. I know that our athletics program is still trying to work that out. As you can imagine, athletics programs across the nation are sort of holding their breath and watching how things are going down and what's happening in the regions in which they play. And so I know our athletics program is working on some safety protocols and processes and a proposal for how athletics will look fall quarter. And they will have information on when to move in, how to move in. They'll be providing that information to the teams.
Great. So watch for communication from them.
Absolutely.
Really,
your WallaWallaU University email is really important for you to watch because much of the communication to you will happen that way.
Great. This next one is going to be for Melissa. Will all students be moving in that Friday, Sunday, and Monday, or just freshmen?
Good question. So those dates are prioritized for our freshmen. So our current students, because they are not required to be here participating in JumpStart starting that Tuesday, will have later move-in dates. So our freshmen have priority during that time.
Great. I got a couple more questions that have come in since you guys are asking great questions. Let's see. The next one is, are freshmen able to have a vehicle on campus? And I'm going to take this one because it's an easy answer. That is a yes. You can have a vehicle on campus. All that you need to do is make sure that you register it with campus security. Once you're on campus, you can get a little sticker, a little tag you can put in on your car, and that allows you to park in student parking. Let's see. Another question is, what is the university looking at when making COVID decisions? So this will be for you, Jody. When the state eases restrictions with the university, will the university automatically ease restrictions also?
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking that. So the state of Washington has, which is where we're located, College Place, Washington, has 2 guidelines that we are following very closely. The first is a general guideline called the Washington State Phases of Reopening. And there are 4 phases in reopening, and you can find that online. If you type Washington State Phases of Reopening, you can see what each of those phases looks like and what the governor of the state of Washington has proposed in general for general businesses, general community activities, that sort of thing. A second document that we're following very closely is the Washington State's Guide for Higher Education Institutions, colleges and universities like WallaWallaU University. The higher education guide was released just recently by the governor and tracks along some important principles for how to manage classrooms, how to manage academic functions like labs. There are some principles in there for academic research. And so the governor has made it clear to us that that particular guide for higher education institutions is where we should be focusing for our academic endeavors and some of our co-curricular endeavors. Programs that aren't completely academic but correspond well with academic programs. So we are following that guide as well. We are closely watching Washington State's requirements, and we're closely adhering to those as the minimum threshold for WallaWallaU University. So above and beyond those particular restrictions or recommendations, WallaWallaU University may make some other decisions to be maybe more restrictive than the state requires us to in order to keep our community and our students, faculty, and staff safe. So, for example, Washington State allows some gathering in phase 3. I believe they authorize gatherings up to 50 people in phase 3 of reopening. Even if WallaWallaU University could gather 50 people this summer on our campus, we're unlikely to do so because it's summer. We want to be extra cautious. We want to make sure our campus is extra safe to you when you arrive in September. So even though the state allows it by their recommendations, we're not necessarily going to jump in with both feet and adhere to that. So in fall quarter, as we evaluate what restrictions we're going to keep and what restrictions we might ease as the state allows in its reopening phases plan, but also in its document for higher education, we're going to carefully look at what's happening in our own community, what's happening in our county, because our goal is to make sure that our students are safe and can safely return home for winter break. So there's a number of things that we're going to be evaluating, not just what is required of us, but we're also going to be looking just in general at what's happening on our campus and in our community around us to make sound decisions based on that.
Great. Thank you, Jody.
Mm-hmm.
Another question is, are there any sessions focused on finances for parents? So we actually do have that. If you go to wallawalla.edu/webinar, we have a recording that we did earlier in the year on financial aid. It's a great presentation. We've got Doug Taylor, our Associate Director for Student Financial Services, that presents. So feel free to watch that with your parents. It's a great resource. And also, should you or your parents have any questions related to finance, just give us a call. We can connect you with a financial aid counselor. They can talk with you as long as you need to kind of walk you through the process. We're here to help, but that's a great resource for getting kind of familiar with kind of the lingo surrounding financial aid. Next question is, how are roommates to behave toward each other in light of the special protocols required elsewhere on campus? I'm going to give that to Jody because she's very integral to all those types of discussions for campus.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Trevor. So my daughter's in the dorm, and so it's of not only interest to me as the lead of the Return to Campus Task Force, but as a mom and as a parent to try to understand what things will look like in the residence halls this fall quarter. So currently, our current thinking is that roommates will associate like family members. So in your own dorm room, we would assume that you're considered a family in that residence hall space. Obviously, if you're uncomfortable with your roommate, some behaviors that the roommate is displaying, maybe your roommate doesn't allow social distance like you'd wish, maybe you're concerned about your safety. Those are things that you would discuss with your residence hall deans and try to come up with a plan of action there. But in your room, we want that to be considered your own personal space, your own living space. So your room, your car, places that you won't have people quite often because you are maintaining 6 feet of social distance outside of your family unit. So currently we're considering your roommate a family unit, you and your roommate. Outside of your room, however, in the general residence hall or out in public, out on our building spaces, you would be in public. And so we would ask that you wear a mask and take appropriate precautions to make sure that not only are you keeping yourself safe, but that you're not unknowingly harming someone else in our campus community.
Great. Thank you, Jody.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It looks like we have come to the end of the question period. Thank you, everyone, for all the questions. And thank you, Jody and Melissa, for your time this evening and for sharing with us what's happening on campus. I've got just three things left to share with you before you go. Just to reiterate, to sign up for the other presentations in our summer series, go to wallawalla.edu/workshops and get registered. Like I said, there's also a webinar on there about getting financial aid. If for some reason you can't make it to the live sections, we will be posting recordings of them on that same webpage after they have occurred. We'll be doing the same for this one, so you can go back and watch it if you missed something that we talked about and you were like, oh, trying to remember what it is, you can go right there and find it. If you haven't yet had the chance to virtually visit our campus yet, I'd highly encourage you to do so. I know some of you had questions about financial aid. We can set you up with an appointment with a financial aid counselor during that time. We can have you sit down and talk virtually with the department that you're interested in majoring in, as well as get a virtual tour of our campus with an actual tour guide that's going to walk you through it. You can learn more about that and sign up at wallawalla.edu/visit. We work around your schedule. When you're free, we'll try to arrange your appointment. Just give us a little bit of advance notice so we can try to make sure we get all of the appointments you'd like. Again, that's wallawalla.edu/visit. We'd also love to have your feedback about today's presentation. When we sign off, please take a moment to take a brief survey at wallawalla.edu/comment. You can see the link there in the chat box that was just shared. We want to make these presentations as helpful as possible, and your feedback is very valuable to us. If you think of something you forgot to ask, you can always give us a call or email us at info@wallawalla.edu or send us a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks again for being here, and we're looking forward to getting to know you and having you on our campus this coming fall quarter. Have a great night.